Hello and
Hello.
welcome here
Hello.
at this first bit. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Elena, you all right?
Yeah, all good, all good. It's been a pretty good week. Busy, just perfectly busy to get the day going. And yeah, how have you been, Jake?
Mental. It has been so busy. I've got an admission to make for everyone listening. I actually only did the presentation for this about an hour ago because it's been that busy. But it's done. So I'm happy about that. So yeah, just for everyone tuning in, thanks for tuning in, firstly. Certainly today's session is on how to build topical digital PR links in the finance niche. And then Eleanor is going to do a few website teardowns at the end. So yeah, I mean it's been mental. We are hiring, we are inundated with clients and campaigns. But yeah, I think the last since Christmas, I think we've built more links and got more placements than we have in the entirety. So it's going really well. The team's doing awesome job. But yeah, we are hiring as well. That is a little shameless plug. So if anyone's got experience in digital VR, you know where to go. Um, how was your Christmas and New Year? Because I realise this is our first one of 2023.
Oh yeah, Happy New Year.
I don't know when you can stop seeing that.
Yeah, well,
I
this is
know.
acceptable.
Yeah, it feels a bit weird saying it now, actually.
Was it good? Did you both have a good one, Jack? You?
Yeah, mine was just chilled, mate. To be honest, I think I needed it after before Christmas. I just needed to completely reset, ready to go again. But yeah, it was good.
Yeah, likewise. It was just the usual, really. Loads of food, loads of drinks, and just like eating all the chocolate and leftover Christmas dinners, just all that sort of thing. It was just really like the usual. Nothing different this year. Well, last year now. What about you, Jake? Because obviously
Yeah,
you,
it was good. Just
yeah.
see him all. Did you see me interview that I got?
What?
No. So basically, one of our journalists who we work with for the Daily Mirror, in the UK, obviously for our UK clients, she reached out and she was just like, "Jake, I've been let down at the last minute. Do you know anyone that's got a weird Christmas tradition?" I was like, "Yeah, me. I go to the Indians every single year, and I have for the last 10 years to have our Christmas dinner." Anyway, she did this whole feature. If you search my name on Google, it'll come up top and it's brilliant. I've got pictures of my wife in there, my mum and dad, my sisters,
Whoa.
like a full feature. But yeah, it was good. We just the same old. Mine definitely wasn't chilled. I pretty much went out every single day. But yeah, I still feel like I've recharged the batteries. And yeah, like I was saying, it's been a bit of a wild start to 2023, but
Did
all
you
good.
have a curry for Christmas dinner this
I
year?
do,
Wow.
I do every year. And it's amazing. Honestly, you just need to try it. I'm trying to like start a cult, but you need to try it. Honestly, it's amazing.
I don't think I'd be allowed. I think my family would disown us if I tried to have a curry on Christmas dinner. If I even suggested it, I think I'd be kicked straight out.
Yeah, it's a bit wild, but yeah. Apart from that, it's been all good. Onboarded some good clients this week and last week, so yeah, like I say, we're just full of interviews. So this was actually this topic that we're going to be talking about today is actually coming at a really good time. I think it's when we originally planned to do this. This was kind of before there was a massive cost of living and recession and energy bill crisis. Well, every type of financial crisis you can possibly imagine happening. So it's coming at a good time. So I will just share. Actually, first of all, it's kind of standard stuff, but feel free to like and subscribe. We've got plenty of videos coming out, live streams. I know we've got quite a few in different niches as well for anyone invested. We've got a fair few, but we thought we'd start the year with a finance one. Like I say, and we didn't think at the time that we're tying this into such a big economic crisis, but here we are. It's ever changing and ever evolving. So straight into the deck. Like I say, anyone feel free to drop comments in or anything like that. We'll pick them up straight away. But yeah, so the whole thing is about how to build topical digital PR links in the finance niche. Got some really good tips in here and campaigns that we've actually covered on previous live streams, and I just wanted to kind of recap on some of them because since we've launched and since I've always talked about tweaking ideas and evolving them as the go, we've actually seen some success, and it's about the finance niche. So some really useful tips throughout. So I guess first things first, kind of we try and keep the same process when we pull these decks together, kind of how to create, how to validate, tips, all that type of thing. But how to create a finance digital PR idea. Three kind of key points I've put in here, and again, it's even more timely than ever, like I keep mentioning. But the first one, the super important is, are you kind of creating a finance idea or digital PR campaign that's tapping into a current trend? Sorry. Um, so this is massive, and a lot of personal finance, especially journalists, especially in the UK, they work on such short lead times because the financial kind of outlook's ever changing. So make sure when you are pushing a campaign or you are creating a campaign that it is tapping into these current trends. You do need to be super reactive with finance ideas and campaigns because it can change on the daily. So just bear that in mind when you're thinking about doing it. Um, is it plugging a service? So this is quite a weird one, really. If you are a financial brand and you offer a service, try not to make your finance idea all about your service because the journalists can see straight through it. However, one thing you do need to do, which we reiterate through this kind of presentation multiple times, is you've got to make sure you're offering expert advice. It's got to be legit. It's got to help people because finance is quite an emotional kind of topic for a lot of people around the world at the minute. If you get that tone of voice or that expert comment wrong, it could go down quite badly, not just with the journalist. If it did slip through the journalist net and you got a placement out of it, normal kind of people reading the article and reading the social posts about the article could absolutely tear you to bits. So that's quite a big one, Jack, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I was about to say, just to reiterate that, it's just like making sure that you are coming across as an expert rather than trying to plug or trying to be like advertorial. So if you're offering expert advice, just making sure that the tone of voice is right and you kind of from a understanding, if you're empathetic with the audience, because obviously we are going through a cost of living crisis, just to make sure that you've got that in mind when you're actually outreaching these type of things, because yeah, you can get quite a bit of backlash. So yeah, just making sure that you are offering good advice and basically just something that will benefit the reader at the end of the day.
Yeah, and we've got a few slides later on kind of how you can do that and ways to do it. But on the flip side of that, if you are plugging a service and it's a really valuable one, by all means, I see a lot of people creating like calculators for energy bills and all that type of thing, or even if it's just simple budgeting methods and things like that, you can have massive success, and it's all really really good advice for people. And the third one, in terms of when you come to pitch the idea and, or even when you're pulling the idea and thinking of the idea, always look for that big number. It's not just about, if I'm launching a campaign, it's not just about how I can save £10 a month on my energy bills. Times that by the amount of people that need energy in the country, and you've got a big number. If you send out a pitch to a journalist and it's like revealed you could save £10 a month on this energy bill, like that isn't as strong as if you times that £10 by 66 million in population in the UK and say Brits could save £6 billion or whatever it might be on energy bills by doing this one tip. So think about the terminology and think about how you can apply something financial to the masses, because that's what journalists are looking for. And that works for both B2B campaigns and B2C. So, if you are a big brand, a big financial brand, and you don't want to just talk about how it's going to save Jake money, but how it's going to save businesses money, take the same concept and spin it. Jack, I know you've had a few good wins doing it this way, haven't you?
Yeah, I was about to say, it's like I try and get in the mindset of thinking, like, if I was a journalist, what's going to make people click on my story? So that saving £10, no one's really going to click on it. But say if you say save £660 million, then you're going to be more likely to click on that bigger number because it kind of plays onto your emotions a bit more. It's just trying to get into the mindset of the journalist in that aspect of things and just trying to make sure that you're creating something newsworthy and that people are actually interested in.
Yeah, and actually, that's a good point. If I was to add a fourth bubble on here, what I've found working with big financial brands in the past is sometimes they get too focused on one little service that they want to plug, but it's hard to get out the mindset of thinking, yes, but is that relatable to the masses? Even though it might drive you a lot of money, it depends what your goal is for the campaign. But if you want mass coverage and mass backlinks and topical backlinks, which is the main point of this presentation, make sure that if you are pitching to the Express or even the Street or Wall Street Journal, whatever it might be, that you have a read of those publications before you do so, because chances are they might not focus on that little thing that you want to focus on. So how can you take that and kind of replicate across the masses? And that'll definitely help when it comes to pitching. But yeah, in terms of creating the idea, I'd say the biggest part is, you're looking for a big number, you're looking to make it relatable to the average person, and if you can tie it into a current trend, you're under a winner. So two big ones there. Again, how to validate a finance idea. You'll see this throughout, but can it be tied to the average person? Like I just said, that's the main one. But a couple of other ones, and we keep this in from other slides because a lot of people think, oh, how different is it to launch a campaign in the finance niche compared to the home niche or whatever it might be. If it's worked before, chances are it'll work again. Granted, it needs to be tapped into current trends a bit more in the finance one. And yeah, like we keep mentioning, is it newsworthy enough? Is saving £10 really going to get national news? No. But is saving 660 million? Yes. And it's just about kind of validating that. If you're not sure as well, feel free to reach out to some journalists. I think because it is such an emotional topic at the minute, finance across the world, I think journalists, bounce an idea off them, say, look, I've got this great idea, but not too sure how it'll sit. What do you think? Chances are they might reply and say, oh, yeah, that's a bit, I'm not sure we should be going with that just now. Maybe add this angle or maybe add an expert comment or whatever it might be. Definitely worth validating it, isn't it, Jack?
Yeah, 100%. And I think just going back, like, has it worked before? You kind of can know that they're always going to be talking about energy bills in winter because that's when the people are in the homes more. Like with the finance, it might be during the summer, have holiday prices skyrocketed. Like you've got to just tap into that seasonality again, really. It's like it's all year round. So has it been worked on before or has it been done before? You can just look at the seasonal trends and you can see that there's a recurring theme every year.
Yeah, like that coming up is, what is it, the best? When's Blue Monday? Is that this Monday coming?
This Monday coming, yeah.
So like that's ideal for like searching for holidays and all that type of thing, isn't it? So like there is seasonality in finance, and obviously you've got like tax returns, company reports and financial year reports, all that type of thing. They never really change. So you can still have seasonality while being reactive for kind of like emergent topics, when the budget happens. Obviously, we don't really know what's in the budget until the budget happens. So kind of create like a barrage of ideas and comments so that when something happens, you can quickly jump on it. I think the changing thing over the last few years, especially with the budget and different kind of financial things worldwide, is sometimes it gets leaked in the press a day or two before it actually comes out. So we kind of know when Rishi Sunak's doing the budget or whatever that certain topics are going to be discussed. So you can definitely prep more now than you maybe could have 2-3 years ago, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I think like prepping is kind of the way forward with reactive. Like to be able to prep when you're being reactive is probably one of the best things you can do. Well, one of the best things you can try to do, just because, if you've got a little insight into what's going to be talked about and you can kind of be the first one in the journalist's inbox, you're kind of going to be onto a winner straight away.
Yeah, definitely. So next bit, how to deploy. Again, you make sure you're creating a persona. This goes with this. You'll see the slide in every single one of our presentations, and this is why we always talk about topical relevance. You need to know who you're targeting. It's not just the case of building links for building links' sake anymore. Getting them in front of the right people who could convert the customers is what digital PR is now. Long gone are kind of the days of just building links for the sake of it. You need to make sure that you're driving something extra. So having an in-depth persona of who you want to target and creating kind of a major list on which sites would the persona tend to hang out on. I mean, we've got a client that's only bang on 6 weeks through his contract with us, it's a quarterly contract. I think it was 9 links that he was due to be getting, and we're already on 45. And if you look at the links, it's like the Street, regional news websites. We've got the Express, Wall Street Journal are interested in stuff. Like if you look, I think the day average is 70, and it's mainly due to because the Josh who works on the account had a real good look before we launched the campaign. It kind of, which sites would they hang out on, what type of thing are they consuming, what data are they using, what data are they not using, what comment are they using, and so forth. So definitely do your research beforehand. Doesn't need to be anything more than research. I think it's just more to have that idea. Sometimes as well, if you're struggling to think of an idea, do it backwards. Think about where the dream publication first. Then you might see something that they've already covered, say in Wall Street Journal or New York Times, whatever it might be, and work backwards from that. Say, how can I take that idea and replicate it into my world? So that's a good way of doing it. And why you're targeting, so keywords, categories, standard stuff really, but making sure you're internally linking through from your data assets or your idea on site to drive performance. And yeah, why you're targeting, are you adding value? If a journalist wrote a story on how to save money during on your energy bills, and you're pitching the same idea that's already in the article, you're not going to add anything to that. So try and think of how you can add something that's not the norm. Seeing that some of the norm campaigns do still work. I've mentioned the 50-30-20 budgeting. Sammy, one of our clients from Up the Gains, he's kind of got his own financial investment savings blog that he does some wicked tips on. He wrote a really good article about how you can take the 50-30-20 budgeting method and spin it for the economic crisis that we're going through. So some of the normal topics can be changed to hit these new current trends. I think it was just changing from 50-30-20 to kind of 60. So, wasn't much, but it was really useful advice to see you don't need to stick to strict saving practices during a crisis, a recession. So it was really good, and it was really valuable to the average person, like we keep saying.
Can I just jump in? I can't believe that you forgot to mention the Forbes link that Josh got as well.
Oh yeah, that's another one. So that was for that same client. So yeah, we were on the call with the client, and he was saying how great everything was, and then he's like, "Oh, I'd love to have been in Forbes." I went, "I'll just have a little look." We went on, we searched on Google, and Forbes had covered the story 9 minutes before our call. So it was great. But yeah, that's the type of topical relevance that we're kind of talking about, isn't it? Making sure you're in the right places and talking about the right things, I guess. So Jack, do you want to go through this, because this was more your client, wasn't it?
Yeah, might as well. So the campaign that we did for one of our e-commerce clients over in the US was like a seasonal campaign. So I think we mentioned it in the last live stream as well, I think just before Christmas. Basically what we wanted to do was just look at how much people are spending on Christmas presents in the US. And what we're able to do is basically just look at the cities. We looked at the top 100 most populated cities in the US, found their monthly salary, found how much on average they're meant to be spending on Christmas presents. Then from there, we're just able to do simple maths to find out kind of how much they are spending on Christmas presents. So we're able to find out how much of the monthly salary they were actually spending. So from that, we'll basically just put it into an Excel doc. It'll be on the next slide, is it?
Yeah.
So yeah, as you say here, we've put it into a big Excel doc, just all the cities broken down. We've got the monthly salary and things like that in there, and we're able to find out the percentage of how much people are spending. And like the sources we use things like Statista, we use the census, just all these like good government websites that kind of are trustworthy sources, and we're able to just collate the different data points and attribute them a score. And basically, once you do that, you can turn into your own. So since we've got like 4 or 5 different data points there, because we're creating our own kind of story from that, our own narrative, we're able to pass that off as our own data set, because it's not been done before, and it is like a new data set because we're kind of collating all the data and turning it into something else. So with that, we'll just kind of create a blog to sit on a client's website, so to start building links through. And within this blog post, we'll have some internal links as well going to the target categories, which is kind of off the back of the keyword research we do at the beginning of the campaign. And then we kind of outreach that just with the key news hooks. So I think off the top of my head, I think it was Scottsdale spent over 55% of their monthly wage on Christmas presents. So that kind of got picked up by Fox Business and went over quite a few different different business websites. I think it got like 15 links in the first day we launched it, which is like really good. But with financial campaigns, especially with that, because it was reactive, it wasn't really reactive. It was like, because it was seasonal, it went with Christmas, and that everything's changing so quick with the finance sector. It's got a much shorter lead time, doesn't it? Like you're outreaching things, and then something might change the day later. Like you're talking about the way people are spending Christmas money, and it's like the predictions for Christmas and Black Friday were down like loads compared to last year, this year, because of the cost of living crisis. But then some of the data that was released for certain states was the complete opposite to what was being said. So it was kind of just taking all that information in and applying it the right way. Because if you're kind of taking hearsay from different news articles and it turns out to be the wrong one, and you kind of either really downplaying everything or you come completely overshooting it. With something like the cost of living crisis, you kind of need to be really careful with what you're saying. And from the back of that, once we got those placements, when Christmas happened and Christmas finished, we were in the week following Christmas, and we basically re-outreached it to say like a summary piece instead of a like a proactive piece. So we outreached it before Christmas for the Christmas angle, and then after Christmas as well, to kind of say like, look, this was the state that spent the most amount of money. Again, before we outreached that, we kind of looked at all the news articles to see if any more data had been released to kind of either support our story or to go against it, so we could update it and tweak it. But yeah, it was good to launch, like, because we got some really good coverage from the back of it. I don't know if you want to add anything, Jake.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just kind of tap into that data element a little bit more as well. I know we're big on it, and you'll hear us in all of our live streams, but the data, because it was sat on site, chances of getting do follow links go up as well. So when we're talking about that Fox News link, that was a do follow as well, into the category. We had internal links through to the keywords that we're focusing on. So I haven't checked because we're still kind of running it, but yeah, I imagine there's been some movement. And just Mick's just popped up as well, just saying, so thanks for the question, Mick. What's your advice on making these personas? I think there's a few ways of doing it. Kind of depends on how your marketing looks like, but one good way of doing it is using your PPC data. If you do run any paid ads, check who's converting, because whoever's converting is effectively your persona. Other ways you can do it, there is audience research tools to see, what type of I've used YouGov in the past, where you can put in a topic and it'll build out a persona for you, saying this is the person, this is what their interests are, this is what the hobbies are, these are the social platforms that they like to hang out on, these are the kind of websites that they like to hang out on. But above anything as well, like your own website, I guess. You know who your customers are, who, even if they're not customers and just traffic the site, you go into your Google Analytics and see which demographics driving the most, traffic, and who's got the highest bounce rates and all that type of thing. And you can formulate a persona just based on that. Obviously, analytics data can be a little bit skewed at times, especially if you're running digital PR alongside, because people might genuinely just want to click through your website to have a look. Might not be the perfect kind of persona, but if you do sell things on your website, then definitely use your own sales data. Or if you do run paid ads or anything like that, or affiliate ads or anything like that, you'll know who's the ones that convert for you. When we launch our digital PR campaigns, we do a base persona using YouGov and that type of thing. But sometimes we'll say to the client, this is what YouGov said, or Kantar or whoever else, and the client might turn around and say, yeah, but they're the ones that's on our website the most, but actually they're not the ones that convert the most. This person is. So it's just about kind of merging a couple of different ways. But yeah, if you do use paid ads, I definitely use conversion data for personas rather than traffic data, I guess. Jack, would you agree on that?
Yeah, I think 100%. I think using that kind of analytics data can be good, but then also at the same time, it's not that trustworthy, because it might just be people looking at your site rather than actually wanting to convert. So yeah, definitely the conversions, the way to go with that, with trying to figure out who you're actually meant to be targeting.
Yeah, and if you don't have any conversion data, by all means, analytics should do the job. If it's got a big enough data range, if there's only 10 people coming to your website or something like that, then it's a lot harder. But if you've got 10,000, then you can start to form better conclusions on that, even though they might not be converting. So yeah, hope that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jack, these were just some of your links, weren't they? That kind of came off the back
Yeah,
of
just the
that.
coverage you got from the data, yeah. As you say there, I haven't even included the Fox Business one, but that just shows the kind of quality links that we're getting for this data campaign. So yeah,
Yeah,
really good.
yeah. And I wanted to just talk about this one, and I think this is really important. I think certain niches you can get more than just links, and finance is absolutely one of those. So, just to give you a bit context, one of my clients is a bar in London, and it's Sammy again who runs up the gains. He's the marketing director, and amazing bar called Amazing Grace. You need to check it out if you're living in London. It's amazing. Anyway, Real Strikes hit. Obviously, they're a bar straight away. Sammy provided us with a quote on how much money he was set to lose, or the business was set to lose, due to the real strikes. To our delight, well, not our delight, that shouldn't say that, but in terms from a PR point of view, £53,000 the set to lose within a week, which is shocking. So pushed the campaign out to journalists. London bar set to lose 53,000 due to real strikes. Tapped into a current trend, talked about a big number, provided expert comment. It's our data, so it's legit. Pushed it out, and it just went everywhere. So we had live. These are all TV slots, by the way, where the client was on live primetime TV discussing this. So Talk TV, I've put 2 in because he was on twice. GB News, which was massive. Channel News Asia picked it up and did a full kind of day that's going live any minute. BBC, he was on 6 o'clock on the regional London news, and it blew up. And it's just where they get a panel on and talk about the real strikes and that type of thing. Sammy was one of those on the panel because he's a business that's been affected. And all it was tapping into something. Obviously, I know that was an actual business and a brand, and it's not particularly a great story, but great coverage for the place itself. And this was just a small part of it. I think I've got the next slide. Oh no. But in terms of online coverage for that, we had the Daily Mail, Express, Telegraph, My London, Times, Express twice. Like it just went mental as from a backlink point of view. But um, yeah, you get extra PR activity. I think if it's around finance, people like to talk money, and they like to talk money on different platforms rather than online. So that was a really good one of how we've took a campaign. Don't get us wrong, like we had to brief him for some of these conferences. He did amazing on them, but JB News certainly threw up a few spanners in the work, asking what he thought of the government and all that type of thing. So you need to be prepared if you are pushing something like that. You might get tough questions on what do you think about what's going on in the world type questions. But yeah, just wanted to throw that in that if you get your angles right and it's relatable, it's current, all that type of thing, there can be so much more than how to build topical digital PR links. It can be, massive, and we see massive spikes in traffic. And hopefully, because they've got exposure on there, people local to the area hopefully popped in, maybe to support the local business, because it wasn't just the business that's affected, the staff who were called in to kind of cover these big corporate events that were booked out, you know, they unfortunately lost hours and that type of thing as well. So definitely more benefits than just link building. And that was a pretty wild period. So yeah, I just wanted to add that one in. So being adaptable, I've posted this one before, but it's still relatable to finance. That's why I put it in again. But sometimes something emerges where you can add a tweaked version of the financial campaign. I know Jack's just talked about it, about, this is what's going to happen, and then this is what has happened. You can constantly evolve this financial data. And it's a really good way of doing it. And I think you're going to need to be adaptable during the next few years because it's going to be pretty volatile in the industry. So in the world. So I definitely stay on guard if you have launched a campaign. If you're thinking of a few ideas at the start, try and go for the one that doesn't take much updating, and you can adapt pretty quickly and be really flexible on that, and jump on emerging trends.
Yeah, and if you do have something that has worked before, you've kind of already built those relationships with the journalists if they've published your story. So you can always reach out to them and kind of ask them what they think about a data set if you are creating a new one. And if they like it, then obviously you've kind of got that relationship there to just reach out to them and they'll publish it. But like, for example, the Christmas one, I'll be doing exactly the same story next year and outreaching it the same way and to the same people just because I know it has worked before. I think it's just if you've got that connection already there with the journalist and you're giving them some good, useful information, they're always going to take it off you again.
Yeah, and on that as well, when you are creating expert comment about a certain topic within your financial kind of sector or niche, definitely make a little bank of quotes, because sometimes you will be under the impression that a journalist is using one of your quotes, but they might not use it. That quote's free elsewhere then. And you don't know when you might need it. Like I keep talking about that 50-30-20, but we got Sammy in Money Week talking about the 50-30-20 method. And then someone from Woman and Home, which I know isn't kind of massively topically relevant, but it's still about lifestyle. And, it was more about energy bills. So it kind of tapped in that regard. Reached out and says, I'd seen you've spoke in Money Week about the 50-30-20 method, but how can you do it during a cost of living crisis? So straight away, update the blog, update expert comment, but you can just rephrase stuff and be adaptable on the comments as well as campaigns.
Yeah.
So evergreen again, touching on what we've just discussed. Can you keep the campaign for next year? This is a little bit tougher for finance, but there is certain topics within the industry that you know are coming around. The end of financial year report happens at a certain time. Tax returns happen at a certain time. So whatever you've done this year, if it's worked, just give yourself a little head start and launch the same thing next year. When people are going on holidays, when people are looking to book weddings, all that type of stuff. It happens, and it happens in the same month every year. It doesn't rarely change. So definitely that one. Can you add a new angle to target the next seasonal event? I don't know. There might be something on how much people are set to spend on their loved ones this Valentine's. If that goes well, can you then do how much people are going to spend on the dad for Father's Day or whatever it might be? There is ways you can just add new angles but keep the same context, and that's like Jack mentioned. That's a really, really good way of kind of using the same journalist, because if a journalist covered a story on how much people in the US are set to spend on Valentine's Day or UK or whatever it might be, and they cover the story, go back to them and say, oh, actually, Jack, would you be interested in doing one similar, and we'll get everything prepped for you ahead of Easter or Valentine, whatever, Father's Day, Mother's Day, whatever it might be. So it's a good way of building relationships. And it's a good way of getting maximum impact out of kind of one idea. You're just tweaking it.
Yeah, definitely. I was about to say that. I think like if you can use the same base set of data for you kind of doing other stories and saving you the work to have to go out and either gather your own data or kind of do analysis yourself. If you've kind of got the base data set there, then it saves you a lot of time as well. And then you can kind of focus on contacting the right people and coming up with the right angles and things compared to pulling the data, because it can take a lot of time really doing the data.
Yeah, definitely. And again, just can you leverage the contacts you build? Think personal finance journalists, especially, I've noticed this isn't like gospel, but this is what my experience is always, that they do like a relationship. I've got contact at the Express, Nick, who regularly now reaches out and says, look, Jake, I'm writing a story on this saving method or this, and can Sammy talk about this, or can one of the other clients talk about this? And I think this is just from my perspective, that they do value relationships a little bit more. And I think it's because you've got to have a trusted source to run a personal finance story, because like we keep saying, it's so emotive and that type of thing. If they do get a good source and it does resonate with the audience, they're going to keep coming back more than likely.
Yeah, 100%.
Jack, or you can do this one because this is more your
Yeah,
remit.
just being reactive again. Like we were saying before, you can kind of predict what's going to come up, but it's just making sure that you've got things ready for when they do actually come up. So on Twitter, we use journal requests all the time, and kind of there's a lot of journalists that are searching for people with looking for money tips, really, especially in the cost of living crisis. So it's just, once you've got that bank of quotes, or once you've written up a couple of tips, you can kind of just tweak them ever so slightly when you see a new journal request come up. So like that one, looking for finance and debt experts to help with the following, and it's just looking for tips on sorting out debt. But see, if you've already written about debt before, you can literally just tweak it a tiny little bit, and then you can be the first one in that journalist inbox, and then you're pretty much more likely to get the link. So it's kind of what we like to do. We've got a bank of quotes for pretty much all of our clients, where we write a few that we think are going to come up like in the news, so finance tips, things on energy bills. And if someone comes up with a journal request, we can just reach out to them straight away. And I just think it's a really good method of kind of putting yourself in pole position to build the good links, because journal requests, you tend to see they are all, like you say, they're Yahoo Finance, like they're all your top tier publications, and I think just puts you in the best position to kind of build the best links.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like Jack's kind of alluded to a little bit, we just sit on we have journal request open all day. I've got it open now in a tab next to this one that I'm doing a live stream on. So I we're on it all time. I think journal requests are more geared towards stories related to the masses as well. I think horror is a little bit more niche, I guess. They're looking for specific products or specific experts in this type of hair care or whatever it might be. But journal request is definitely more nationals rather than niche publications. So definitely good to get mass coverage. We've had so much success on this, and if anyone did want to have a look at the success we've had through Reactive solely by doing this type of method, reach out and I'll send you the list. But yeah, I mean, one of the ones on there actually is the Amy Hunt, the bottom left. I actually reached out to that journalist and got a link for Ideal Home, and it's for Sammy as well. So definitely worth looking at. And I guess the thing is, another thing I just want to touch on really is finance can pretty much be applied to everything. So, don't limit yourself to a specific product or a specific service. Think a bit broader if you're in the position to do so with your website or your brand. Because there isn't really a topic out there that you can't tie back to finance. And you'll see every publication up and down the country talking about, how you can save money on X. Could be anything. Could be TV subscriptions, childcare, whatever it might be, and they go across a wide variety. So, you are going to build links on the topical kind of key ones that you've outlined at the start. But I guess the benefit is you're going to be building links on domains that you haven't had links from before as well, which is super important when it is a kind of ranking factor as well. Making sure you've kind of varied up that link profile a little bit. So yeah, journal requests awesome. So kind of just some of the top tips. You must be qualified to launch the campaign. That is an absolute, standard, because journalists would say straight through, yeah. If you're just trying to push some advice, even though you're not kind of qualified to do so. I mean, don't get us wrong, there is ways kind of around that by, building out personas on your website, all that type of thing to look genuine and have genuine interest in the topic, and that's great. That still works. But yeah, secondly, must have reputable sources of data. This is people's finances you're talking about. You can't put anything in there that you're not sure of, because again, journalists will say straight through it. You must be able to be scaled and adapted, as we keep talking about. And it must tie into an emerging topic if you can. Journalists aren't going to be writing about the end of financial year reports while there's current crisis going on. There will be a short lead time on that type of thing, because all they're doing is writing about what's happening in this minute. And yeah, big one, but you mustn't put anything out that could cause offence or people kind of emotional distress or anything like that. This is finance. Make sure you can apply it to the average person, like I keep saying. And it's a lot easier. Don't be scared by that kind of sentence, really, because a lot of the tips that's out there is awesome. It's just make sure it is awesome and it is adding something. Equally, don't sit on the fence, because if you do sit on the fence, then you're not offering anything worthwhile. So yeah, Jack, have you got any more to add on that?
Just my favorite, like the most two important ones for me, is the reputable sources of data, and just making sure that you are giving the journalists just something of importance, just some good advice. That's our questions just came in.
Yeah, I'm just laughing at that. No offense, that rules out everything. Honestly, if I could, I would be pushing all these types of campaigns. But I mean, when we're talking about not causing kind of offense or anything like that, I think you can still push the boundaries a little bit.
I think if you've got
We
data to back up what you're saying, you can kind of say anything as long as the data does support it and it's bulletproof. If you've got data to support any argument, you can kind of present it, but it's when you're just kind of giving your opinion but not backing it up with anything, that's when you'll kind of get slated for it.
Yeah, like, can you remember the uproar around kind of when the energy bills went through the roof and everyone was like, click this button on your under your stairs and you won't be charged. But then Martin Lewis came out, was like, no, do not do that. You can get taken to court for doing that. That is literally breaking the law. And like that type of offense. But yeah, I mean, if it kind of depends what you're pushing. Some of the things you're pushing aren't going to cause offense anyway. And when I mean offense, it's not so much offense. It's more just make sure it's valuable and it's actually legit, not just people like me who spends all my money at the pub giving financial advice. So that is all, unless anyone has any questions on any of that. Feel free to just to pop them in the chat box. But yeah, I think January's definitely a time for financial campaigns, isn't it? I think it's all you're seeing in the news, even just me picking up the newspaper every morning or going online to have a look. All anyone's talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's all this new year, new me, trying to sort all your finances out type of thing as well, isn't it?
I know it's scary, isn't it? Like I've got my wife's due in a month, well, as you know.
Oh.
And I'm walking around Asda and places like that, and I'm seeing £10 for a pack of nappies. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna need to look at. So, yeah, so that's what it is. But Eleanor, don't know. There's no questions. Mick's just said no questions. Good points. Like, thanks for tuning in, Mick. Eleanor, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, so stick around, guys, because I've got two exciting experiments I want to show you. And the first one is quite a fun one, if you like. It's called the Lizard Lounge. It's DR23, and it's extremely old. It's 18 years old, and as the name suggests, it's in the reptile niche, but predominantly focusing on lizards. It has 98 referring domains. So I'm going to do the usual stuff, and I'm going to share my screen, and we are going to commence. Right, so as you can see, there's a really cool lizard on the logo. It's not there. And the domain was all about basically Lizards 101. Everything you need to know about lizards, from the care sheet. And when you click on the lizards library, that wasn't actually a pictures or anything like that. It was actually a more in-depth information on lizards. So it can be like, what do they eat and how to care for them, and all that sort of thing. So yeah, it was basically, that was pretty much it. As you can see where it says here in the wild, this was more information on lizards in the wild, so like in Kew Gardens and all sort of thing as well. But this was really it, and kind of the domain remained within that kind of setup throughout the end of its lifetime. So let's take a look at some of the backlinks. As we're seeing here, we have quite a lot of Wikipedia. We have FeedBurner here. And if we scroll down, we have a few really good ones, like we have a naturalist, we have Culture Map, Digital Point, mom.com, and more links down the line as well, Homesteady as well. So we definitely have a good mix of backlinks, some very, very high quality. Now let's move on to the anchor text. The anchor text profile is looking just as good. We have branded anchor text at the top, which is exactly what we tend to look for. Moving on to the best pages by incoming links. Now, what this kind of tells us is where is the juice pointed to, Naturally, what we tend to look for is whether the majority of the backlinks are pointed towards the homepage. And we are seeing that the majority are pointed towards the homepage, which is excellent. Some of the internal pages that are getting backlinks would need to be recreated and then page-to-page redirected, because when you work with H domains, you make sure you keep the relevancy as much as possible. So we are seeing some, like lizard information has got 12 backlinks. So this is definitely something we'll need to recreate, but nothing too much that needs recreating. So what's the strategy? Obviously, the domain is in the reptile niche, but obviously, as the name suggests, it's lizards. So, as I said earlier, like keeping the H domains relevant as much as possible is crucial. So, what we need to do is basically first push out a lot of content that is related just to lizards. And there's plenty of things we can cover anyway before we decide to move on to other reptile species. So yeah, the focus would be to begin with is all things content around lizard care. I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel. The domain focused on what it focused, and it's so relevant that there is no point of us not covering what they used to cover, which is excellent because that's how we preserve that relevancy even further. So lizard care, everything you can think of about lizards, from what they eat, the types of lizards. This can be in itself a huge opportunity because there are so many lizards out there from their different sizes, different colors, different um, characteristics, if you like. Yeah. So we have green ones. We have, I don't know what this color is. It's like a mix. As you can see, there's like really big ones. We have bearded dragons. We have some of them like this that looks so cute. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is that there's so many different types of lizards. So this is gonna give us enough content to really kind of go in there and yeah, have loads of opportunities. We can do garden lizards, what to do with them. Because if you're not someone who likes lizards as pets, maybe you want to get rid of them in the garden or something. So anything you can think of to do with lizards. And down the line, we can look to expand on further reptile species. But as I said, like we really need to focus on these two first and really kind of cover them quite well before we look to expand further. The monetization can come from display adverts, of course, but if you have or you're interested in having a lizard as a pet, which a lot of people do, you would need certain things. Obviously, lizards don't eat human food. Well, not that I know if I'm not a lizard expert, but there's things you need to buy, like, I don't know, a place to live. I've named it a cage, but I don't think it's actually called a cage, so that sounds a bit cruel. But yeah, you need certain things you need to have your pet lizard at home. They are quite unique creatures, so that costs money, and that is how we can monetize. Right, so I've got two competitors I want to show you, and the first one is called reptilejam.com. So this one is less authority than us, generating 26,000 per month, which is a pretty decent number considering their authority. So this would be a perfect example of a domain that we're going to tomb rate. Now let's take a look at what they're covering. Now they do a lot of lizards, like things like lizards in Texas. And these queries are getting really good search volume as well. We're looking at 2,000 here for this particular keyword. And we have different types of pet lizards, which is awesome again. But they're also covering other reptiles, which is normal. They are reptile sites, and it's very obvious that the purpose is to cover loads of different reptiles. But ultimately, what will happen is we're going to take everything about lizards that they're ranking for, and then down the line, when we do decide to expand further on reptiles, then we can look at tomb rating these guys again. But they do have lizards in Arizona. Again, this is an amazing opportunity for a lot of content because we can do lizards in California, New York, other parts of the world, Thailand, you name it. So yeah, basically the if you've never heard, if you think that, well, lizards, that's a lizard niche, that niche is not good enough or not large enough, trust me, it is. Like, this niche is actually really large, and a lot of people are less traditional when it comes to having pets. They don't just have cats or dogs. Some people go on more alternative ways, to have their dream pet or whatever. Some people like snakes, all that sort of thing. So it's definitely a thing. The second competitor I want to show you is, again, less authority than us and doing better than the last one. It's called reptileslife.com, and it is covering these things. So now this one is a mix of multiple different reptile species, but it has relevant things like bearded dragons, which is relevant to lizards. We have male versus female. Oh, this is Python. It was male versus female bearded dragon head, whatever that means. And it has 12,000 search volume. And we have bearded dragon UFB light. I imagine this is something to do with at the place that they live. Apparently, like their tank or something, I guess. So this is how these guys are monetizing, which is a great kind of idea of how we can monetize, because this is a type of thing that these bearded dragons need. So that's cool. So definitely things we can take, like how many crickets to feed a baby bearded dragon. Awesome. This is perfect. How to cut bearded dragon nails. That's cool. And then we have best lizards to handle, which is relevant. How long can bearded dragons go without food? So yeah, definitely things we can take from here. And once again, once we decide to expand on other reptile species, we can visit the site again and take on other things that they cover. But this is the cool lizards domain. If you are interested in the reptiles, lizards especially, this domain is awesome, and definitely check it out. Now I'm going to move on to the second one, but I'm going to show you kind of the thing we have prepared. The next domain is called Sandia Hiking. Now it's quite opposite to what lizards is, but this domain is even older. It's 19 years old, DR28, and it has 141 referring domains. Now, as the name suggests, the domain is in the hiking space, outdoor niche, more like. So I'm going to share my screen again, and we are going to take a look at what the domain looked like when it was live. So to quickly summarize the purpose of this domain was run by a guy called Mike, if my memory serves me right. And this was really a passion site. The guy really loved hiking in one particular mountain, which is called Sandia Mountain. So he dedicated this domain to basically share everything he knows about hiking in that mountain. In fact, he even wrote a book called Sandia Mountain Hiking Guide. So what he shared was basically how to prepare to hike in that mountain, from hiking trails to best spots to take photos. So really everything 101 on hiking on that mountain. Now, that doesn't mean that if you are to purchase this domain and then click on the strategy that you have to focus on just this location. That is not what you need to do. You can definitely convert this to a general hiking site. Obviously, to reserve some of the relevancy, we need to make sure that we cover some of this mountain hiking and all that sort of thing, because there is definitely interest, so why not cover that as well as part of our strategy to retain that relevancy. So as I said, DR28, 138 referring domains, and let's take a look at the backlinks. So we have some pretty good ones. We have cbsnews.com, we have The Street, we have nabo.com, Travelocity, Apartment Guide, autostraddle.com, Summit Post, About Us, Mountain Project, which is relevant. We have hikingproject.com, again, very, very relevant. We have bookguide.net and Mom Collective and visitalbuquerque.org and more backlinks down the line. So the backlink profile does look really, really good. In terms of the anchor text, again, branded anchor text to the top. Nothing here to report that is not supposed to be here except this. Now, I'm going to explain here that there is one type of thing that you need to look at is obviously how many backlinks is this anchor text getting. Now, if this anchor text was right at the second spot, third spot, fifth spot, and is getting quite a lot of attention, then that would be a problem. But upon investigating this is totally fine, because it was just used by predominantly Blogspot and other things that are quite normal. So I wouldn't worry about this. It just happens on many domains. You would see that random anchor text that doesn't really belong. But typically, if it's right at the bottom and not getting enough attention, then that's totally fine. So again, we are seeing branded at the top, so I'm not going to worry too much about this. Again, best pages by incoming links. We're seeing the same thing as the last one. We're seeing that the most of the backlinks are pointing towards the homepage, so nothing really that we should be worried about here. But obviously, an internal post that is trailguide.html is getting quite a lot of attention, 49 referring domains. So this would need recreating, and then a handful more potentially. But again, not too much cleanup required. So what's the strategy? Well, let's put it that way. Obviously, hiking is outdoors, so it falls into the outdoor niche. But obviously, the name and the history of the domain was very heavily focused on hiking. So very much like the lizards domain that I just showed you, we're going to have to focus very heavily on hiking first before we look to expand on other outdoor activities. But outdoor has got a lot of things that overlap. Like hiking can overlap with other outdoor activities like camping, for example. So if we're smart, we can really utilize both of them very kind of in a similar time period. So there's definitely room for that as well. But ultimately, the best thing to do is to just stick to hiking as much as possible, especially in the early months, so that you really, really make sure you keep that relevancy. But here's a strategy: listing types of content on hiking clubs or gatherings or whatever in X location. Think of it that way, much like restaurants. Let's say this is a food niche. You have like restaurant locations in certain cities and places. In this case, we're doing like hiking clubs or gatherings in X locations, so that if people are looking to join a hiking club or something like that, so they can socialize, etc., we're the place that can provide that information. And of course, we have hiking guides. Now, this is very broad. This could mean like how to prepare for a hike, what to wear, what to pack, food, GPS, cameras, all things like that. So this could be many, 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 many things. And as I said before, we can expand to other outdoor activities down the line as well. Now, the monetization can come from, of course, from display adverts, but from affiliate programs on everything outdoors, from hiking to camping, because these two can go quite a lot, kind of hand in hand. So let's take a look at the competitors. All of them are, well, I think this one at least is lower authority than us. So it's DR9, and it's generating nearly 40,000 per month. It's called West Coast Wayfares, and let's take a look what this one is ranking for. So this one is perfect because it's giving us an incredibly awesome idea, because it's basically ranking for best hikes in X location. So much like the best clubs in X location, they're doing best hikes. So if you live in Seattle or around the area and you're thinking, well, I really want to go on a hike this weekend, so you're going to Google best hikes near Seattle, right? And these guys have covered extensively, what's the best place to go near Seattle for hike. And they haven't just done that. They've done multiple different locations like Washington. They've done Lake Tahoe. We have Bay Area, Columbia River Gorge, national parks here. They've done a mix of road trips to hikes, easy hikes near me, which is in the Washington area by the looks of it. What else have we got? We have weekends, best hikes in North Cascades National Park. So it looks like this is a pretty interesting pieces of content that we can do, which can be a lot. Because if you think about it, if it's just the US, we can look at other countries as well, but predominantly the US. We can make sure we cover every single state, every single location, and that's really going to give us kind of a lot of traffic, hopefully. The second competitor I want to show you is gutgear.com. Now, this one is more when we do decide to move on to other outdoor activities, such as camping, which are more related to hiking, because you're likely to camp in certain times and locations. This one is slightly higher authority than us. It's DR31, but it's doing really well. It has 62,000 per month according to Ahrefs. Now this one, as you can see, obviously they're ranking for trail camera, which is obviously relevant to us, but ultimately they do very heavily focus on RVs and a bit of camping, like camping games for adults, RVs, barbecue games, RVs again, fishing gear. So definitely a domain that it's worthwhile considering for us to take a look at once we decide to expand on further outdoor activities. But this kind of summarizes this domain as well. Again, if you love the outdoors, if you want to get into the hiking/outdoor niche, this is the domain for you. This is it. Oh, it came
That's
into
brilliant, Eleanor. I've got that hiking one. I've been thinking of a digital PR idea for it, and honestly, so we and Jack launched a campaign for best cities to run in Europe for Puma, and it went everywhere. But you could do the same for hiking, but look at like air quality, amount of viewpoints, like how hard the trails are, all stuff like that. And that would fly, like, because there's so many kind of
Really?
hiking and fitness and
Yeah.
that type of thing. And one thing, because hiking is fitness, there seems to be a massive
Yeah.
boom in people. I mean, I don't know for sure, but a lot more people seem to be hiking now than ever have been. Like,
Because
all
I
my
think it's
mates
because
and
of
that
COVID.
go.
Yeah, I think it's because of COVID. because when we were locked in COVID, the only activity you're allowed to go is outside for a walk. And I think a lot of people were. I think that's why it boomed. Personally, I think that's why it boomed. But it's a good activity. It's a good thing, you know. But yeah, that's interesting though. I didn't realize you could really kind of utilize that niche well as on digital PR side of things, which is cool. So guys, you see another positives about this niche.
So buy the website and buy
Buy
digital
the
PR.
and then buy digital PR.
I think that's pretty much it. I mean, we just another shameless plug. But if you do want to find out a little bit more about the digital PR service or anything to do with the site Eleanor's run through, feel free to reach out. In terms of digital PR, we are taking more clients on from February. So if you do want to get started or do want to have a chat, feel free to reach out or add me on LinkedIn and batter my head for a little bit. I'm more than happy to talk. But I think that's all. Are you guys on anything to add before we shoot?
Nope. I think
Nah.
No?
great presentation. Well done, lads. 2 good expire domains. I think we've done our job.
Awesome. All right. Well, is there anything else in? No, nothing more. Well, hope everyone has a great rest of the week. Hopefully it's a little bit more relaxed than me, Eleanor's and Jack's is set to be, but here we are. We wouldn't be in the industry if not. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. And yeah, if you need anything, feel free to reach out directly. Thank
Take
you.
care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.